Hello everyone, today I'm taking a new poem from our literature reader, New Broadway. The poem that we are taking today in this video is The Listeners, written by Walter de la Mare. First, see what is the poem all about. If you return to a certain place after many years in order to meet someone but find no one there, won't you be disappointed? If the place is deserted, would you be curious to find out what happened to the people who once lived there? So in this poem, there is a traveler with his horse. They had come before a house, and traveler is knocking at the door and continuously calling. And he was expecting to be welcomed by someone, but nobody was giving answer. And after some time, he senses the presence of some phantom or ghost inside that empty building, and then he uses some phrases that create mystery in that poem. So finally, he leaves because he was finding no answer because nobody was replying him. Writer of the poem Walter John de la Mare was born in 1873 and died in 1956. He was an English poet, short story writer, and novelist. He is best remembered for his work for children and the anthology called The Listeners and Other Poems, published in 1912. The Listeners emphasizes two of his favorite themes, mystery and melancholy. Anthology means a published collection of the poem, and melancholy means feeling of sadness. So Walter de la Mare was very interested in writing the works for children, and The Listeners is the poem that is taken from his anthology, The Listeners and Other Poems. And this poem is having the theme of mystery and a feeling of sadness. Is there anybody there? Said the traveler, knocking on the moonlit door. So this is the starting of the poem, where at one door the moonlight was coming and one of the traveler was standing before that door, and by knocking on the door he was asking, is there anybody inside that building? And his horse in the silence champed the grasses of the forest ferny floor. Champed means eating something noisily, and fern on a type of plant that covers the forest floor. So that atmosphere was of silence, and in that silent atmosphere, the traveler accompanied with his horse, who was busy in eating grasses noisily. And a bird flew up out of the turret above the traveler's head. Turret means a small tower on the top of the building. So while traveler was knocking at the door, at the same time one small bird flew up from the top of the building and above the traveler's head. So here, this is the beginning of the poem, where the time is of night, the place is of fog. The traveler with his horse came and stood before a door of that building and started knocking at the door by asking, was there anybody inside that building? Maybe that traveler must have come to meet someone, because he has promised to meet that person, and he was expecting someone to reply him. And his horse was busy in eating grasses, and at the same time one bird was flying away from the top of that building. So here you can see the writer tried to create a frightful environment, where the time is of night, the alone building was there in one of the forest, and one of the traveler who was all alone over there, except his horse, was standing and knocking at the door. Themes that are present in this poem are supernatural as well as isolation and solitude. Rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B, D, E, and so on, with the changing end sounds as the poet saw fit. Some literary devices from this paragraph is anaphora. The beginning word of the continuous line is same, then there will be anaphora, as we can see, and his horse and a bird and he is smote. In all these lines, the beginning word is same, that is and, so literary device will be anaphora in all these lines. Some new words from this stanza. Champed means at noisily. Ferny floor is floor of the forest with ferns. Turret means a small tower on the top of the building. And he smote upon the door again a second time. Is there anybody there? He said. Smote means hitting hard. So traveler, after knocking at the door first time, he was waiting for the reply, but when the reply had not come, again he hit the door harder and said, is there anybody there inside this building? But no one descended to the traveler, no head from leaf fringed sill. Leaf fringed sill means decorative border. Windowsill was having a decorative border around it, so it is talking about that. And descended means came down. So nobody came down to listen to the traveler's call, and no head was peeping out of the window to see that who is standing at the door and knocking. Leaned over and looked into his gray eyes, where he stood perplexed and still. Perplexed means confused and still means without movement. So nobody was bending down and looking into his gray eyes, that how he was standing there becoming confused and becoming very perplexed and without any movement, because he was waiting a reply. So in this paragraph, writer wanted to tell us that that traveler was waiting that somebody gave reply of his knocking, but nobody was coming down, no movement was there. That's why he became a little confused and kept on standing without any movement. Literary devices of this paragraph is assonance, that is the repetition of vowel sound E and O, and that is present in whole stanza. Means E and O are the vowel sound that are repeatedly coming in all the lines throughout the stanza, and that's why the literary device will be assonance. Some new words of this stanza are smote means hit hard, leaf fringed is called decorative border, sill is windowsill, and perplexed means confused. But only the host of phantom listeners that dwelt in the lone house then stood listening in the quiet of the moonlight to that voice from the word of man. Host means the person who is owning the house. Like you are going to a friend's house, so your friend will be host and you will be the guest. Phantom means like ghost, and dwelt means to reside or to live. So who were the ghost of that building? Ghost. Ghost listeners were residing inside that building. They were able to listen to all the calls and knocking from the traveler, but not able to reply him, because they were not normal person like that traveler. Stood thronging the faint moonbeams on the dark stair that goes down to the empty hall. Thronging means present in large number, and faint moonbeam means blur moonlight. So the building was very dark inside. From inside there was no light, and the traveler was really confused and was looking here and there, and at the same time he saw that on some staircase lots of moonlight was coming, though it was blur, but he was able to see the staircase. They were going down to the empty hall. Means inside that building there was an empty hall down the stair. So in this paragraph, writer wanted to let us think that host were the host of that building were the ghost, and they were belonging to the word of ghost, so they were not able to reply to the call of a man who were belonging to the person or to the word of a normal person. Literary devices for this paragraph. First is anaphora. Stood listening, stood thronging. These two lines are starting with the same word, stood and stood. That's why the beginning word is same, and the literary device will be anaphora here. Next literary device is enjambment. When we are having continuous line without having any punctuation mark, then there will be enjambment literary device. Here, line number 1 of this stanza, but only a host, till line number 4 to word of man. These all 4 lines are coming continuously without having any punctuation mark in between. That's why there will be enjambments in all these lines. Some new words from this stanza. Dwelt means settle down. Phantom means like a ghost. And thronging means present in large number. Hearkening in an air stirred and shaken by the lonely traveler's call. Hearkening means listening to something, and stirred means move. So as the air moved or wind blew, the ghosts who were present in large number inside that house, they were listening and moving by the call of that lonely travelers. Means we can say that as the wind was blowing, it was the sign as if the ghost were answering the call of that traveler. And he felt in his heart there is strangeness, there is stillness answering his cry. He has come for traveler, and their strangeness and stillness has come for ghost. So the traveler could feel the strangeness and the silence of those ghosts who were answering his cry. And why cry has used here? Because the traveler had really become disappointed, because even after knocking and calling again and again, nobody was replying him. That's why his call had filled with the sadness. While his horse moved, cropping the dark turf neath the starred and leafy sky. Cropping means to cut the top part of the grass or plant. Turf means the grassy floor, and neath is the short form of beneath, that means under. Starred and leafy sky means in forest there were very long trees, and they were so long as they can reach till the height of sky. So when you looked up in the sky, it seemed the sky seemed full of leaf and stars. So still the traveler and his horse were standing under the leafy and starry sky, where traveler was waiting for the reply from the building, and the horse was busy in eating the grass and plant. So in this paragraph, the writer had cleared a little confusion of the traveler, and now he was assured that nobody else besides the ghost were living in this house, and they were replying his call by making the sign of wind, blowing wind. Literary devices for this paragraph: first is assonance. Repetition of vowel sound I throughout the stanza can be seen. Second literary device is consonance, that is the repetition of consonant sound H, that can be seen in line numbers 1, 3 and 5. Means in these lines, the words that are starting from the consonant sound H, they are making the literary device consonants. Some new words from this paragraph: stirred means moved, turf means grassy layer of the earth, neath, that is the short form of beneath, called under, hearkening means listening to something, and cropping means biting off the top of the plants or grass. For he suddenly smote on the door even louder and lifted his hat. Tell them I came, and no one answered. That I kept my word, he said. Kept my word means fulfilled my promise. So kept on waiting and kept on standing. Traveler again hit hardly on the door, and in the louder voice, by lifting his hat, he said that whoever is there in this building, they listen that I have fulfilled my promise by coming at this place. But as usual, nobody was giving him answer. Never the least stir made the listeners through every word he spake. Least stir means not a single movement, and spake is the old version of the word spoke, that is the second form of speak. So whatever the word he was speaking, nobody was giving him answer. Not a single movement could be seen among the listeners who were living in the inside the building. So this paragraph clarifies that traveler is now assured that nobody is there in the building, and nobody is going to give answer of his call. That's why he's leaving a message that he has kept his promise for the meeting by coming at this place, but as usual he is receiving no reply. Literary device for this paragraph is assonance, that is the repetition of vowel sound E, A and O throughout the stanza. Means all the words that are starting with the vowel sounds E, A and O that are present throughout the stanza and making the literary device assonance. New word of this paragraph is spake, that is the old use of spoke, that is the second form of speak. fell echoing through the shadowiness of the still house from the one man left awake. During night in forest, the shadow of that peaceful house was echoing with the repeated call of that traveler who was the only awakened person over there. No other person could be seen besides him. They heard his foot upon the stirrup and the sound of iron on stone. Is the word that shows regret or sorrow. Stirrup are the two loop structures that can be seen on either side of horse with the flat base on which riders comfort his foot while riding the horse. Sound of the iron on stone is talking about the iron sheet that is fixed under the foot of the horse that are called hooves. So outer area of that building was grassy as well as the stony floor, and when the horse was moving on the stony floor, the iron sheet that was fixed under his leg or hoof were producing the sound. So here the ghost or the phantom who were residing inside that building, they were feeling very sorrow or very regret because they were not able to answer the call of that traveler, and now they were experiencing the sound, the climbing of the traveler on the horse and the moving steps of the horse, as if the traveler has already decided to go back because he himself got exhausted or tired by giving repeated call, but he was receiving no reply. That's why he was ready to go, and the climbing sound on the horse and the stepping moving sound of the horse by on his foot was listening by uh, phantom who were residing in the building, and how the silence surged softly backward when the plunging hoofs were gone. Surged means moving quickly in one direction, and plunging means stepping forward. Hoofs means, I already told you, the lower part of the horse. So when the traveler and his horse had gone, and means the departure of the after the departure of the traveler and his horse, the complete silence, complete soft silence again prevailed everywhere, and that left behind backward in one direction means this, it is talking about now the traveler and his horse had already departed, and the silence that was there before the arrival of that traveler, that again prevailed in all over the atmosphere. Nobody was there besides the phantom who were living inside that building. So this is the last paragraph, last stanza of this poem that shows that after getting exhausted or tired, travel had decided to go back, and that's why after the departure of the traveler and his horse, the complete silence again prevailed the whole atmosphere. Now see the literary device for this stanza, that is anaphora, and the sound and how the silence. These both lines are starting with the same word and making the literary device anaphora. Some new words from last stanza. Stirrup means loops with flat base on either side of the horse saddle to support rider's foot. Plunging hoofs means stepping forward of a horse with its rider, and surged means move quickly in a direction. With this, we have completed this poem. The listeners, I'll see you next time.